knowledge and of
Verse 17. Vaikariko deva sarga panchamo yanmayam mana sasthastu tamasa sargo yastva buddhi krita prabho.
the fifth creation is that of the controlling deities by the interaction of the modes of goodness, of which the mind is the sum total. The sixth creation is the ignorant darkness of the living entity by which the master acts as a tool. As a fool, sorry.
Verse 18. Sad ime prakrita sarga vaikritan api me srinu rajo bajo bhagavato lileyam harime dasham.
All the above are natural creations by the external energy of the Lord. Now hear from me about the creations by Brahma, who is an incarnation of the mode of passion and who, in the matter of creation, has a brain like that of the personality of Godhead.
Verse number 19. Saptame mukhya sargastu sadvidastastu samchaya vanaspati oshadi lata dvaksara viruddho druma.
The seventh creation is that of the immovable entities, which are of the six kinds: the fruit trees without flowers, trees and the plants which exist until the fruit is ripe, creepers, pie plants, creepers which have no support, and trees with flowers and fruits.
Text number 20. Utsrotasastama praya antasparshas visheshina.
All the immovable trees and the plants seek their subsistence upwards. They are almost unconscious but have feelings of pain within. They are manifested in variegatedness.
Verse number 21. Tirasham asthama sarga sostavimsatvido mata avido bhuri tamaso granagyana avedina.
Eighth creation is that of the lower species of life, and they are of different varieties, numbering 28. They are all extensively foolish and ignorant. They know the desirables by smell, but are unable to remember anything within the heart.
Verse number 22. Gaurajo Mahisha Krishna Sukaro Gavayoruruhu Dvisafaha Pasavasche Avir Ustrascha Sattama.
O purest Vidura, of the lower animals, the cow, goat, buffalo, Krishna stag, hog, Gavaya animal, deer, lamb, and camel all have cloven hooves.
Verse number 23. Kharo Swaswataro Gaura Sarabhascha Maritata Ete Chaika Safaha Shataha Shrinu Pancha Nakhan Pasun.
The horse, mule, ass, Gaura, Sharab, bison, and wild cow all have only one hoof. Now you may hear from me about the animals who have five nails.
Verse number 24. Swashrigalo Vriko Vyagro Marjara Shashashalako Simha Kapir Gacha Kumro Godacha Makaradaya.
The dog, jackal, tiger, fox, cat, rabbit, sajaru, lion, monkey, elephant, tortoise, alligator, gossip, etc. all have five nails in their claws. They are known as panchnakas or animals having five nails.
Verse 25. Kanka Gritrabaka Shena Pasa Baluka Barinaha Hamsa Sarasa Chakrava काकोलोकादयः खगा
The heron, vulture, crane, hawk, bass, baluka, peacock, swan, saras, chakravaka, crow, owl, and other are the birds.
Verse 26. अर्वक्षुतस्तु नवमा शतर एकवितो निर्णम् रजोदिका कर्म पारा दुःखे च सुखमानिना.
The creation of the human beings, who are of one species only and who stock their eatables in the belly, is the ninth in the rotation. In the human race, the mode of passion is very prominent. Humans are always busy in the midst of miserable life, but they think themselves happy in all respects.
Verse 27. वैकृतस्त्रय एवैते देवसर्गश्च सत्तमा वैकारिकस्तु य प्रोक्तः कौमारस्तु भयात्मका.
O good Vidura, these last three creations and the creation of the demigods, the tenth creation, are Vaikruta creations, which are different from the previously described Prakruti natural creations. The appearance of the Kumaras is both.
Verse 28 and 29. देवसर्गश्चास्तविदो विबुधा पितरोऽसुरा गान्धर्वाप्सराससिद्धा यक्षा रक्षांसि चारणा भूतप्रेतापिशाश्च विद्याधारकिन्नरादया दासैते विदुराख्याता सर्गस्ते विश्वस्वीकृता.
The creation of the demigods is of 8 varieties. Number 1, the demigods. 2, the forefathers. 3, the asuras or demons. 4, the Gandharvas and Apsaras or angels. 5, the Yakshas and the Rakshasas. 6, the Siddhas, Charanas, and Vidyarasa. 7, the Bhutas, Pretas, Pichashas. And 8, the superhuman beings, celestial singers, etc. All are created by Brahma, the creator of the universe.
Verse number 30. अथ परं प्रयक्ष्यामि वंशां मन्वन्तराणि च एवं राजपृतस्रष्टा कल्पदेशात्मभूर्हरि सचत्यमोकसङ्कल्प आत्मैव आत्मानमात्मना.
Now I shall describe the descendants of the Manus, the creator Brahma, as the incarnation of the patient mode of the personality of Godhead, creates the universal affairs with unfailing desires in every millennium by the force of the Lord's energy. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Madan Prabhuji. Please unmute yourself. Thank you all. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you.
Mataji. Hare Krishna, everyone. So hope you're all doing well. So I'd like to welcome you to the chat class today. And my name is Madan. For those of you who do not know me, we will begin with the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much, Madhvi Mataji and Puja Mataji, for your wonderful recitation. So today we are going to continue with our exploration of chapter 10, which which is where the creation took place. So we're going to be doing verses 26 to 30. So can I request me to become the host? Oh, yes, I am now. So thanks for the promotion. So before we get started off, just wanted to share what we would be doing today. So we would look at the 5 verses which completes chapter 10, and then we also have a short presentation which we will and the presentation is going to be slightly different from what you may expect, and I'll share with you why. And then, of course, we can have some time for questions. So I'm going to invite you all to also recite in Sanskrit and English. So please, like if you are interested, do unmute yourself, or you can raise your hand. And the purpose of these passages are not very long, so we can they're just 3 short purports, so we can read them as well. So without any further ado, let me share my screen. So I'm just hoping that you're all able to see my screen.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Mataji. So would anybody feel inspired to read verse 26?
Hare
Or
Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Madhu Mataji,
Okay,
please go
thank
ahead.
you. Okay. Do you want me to do Sanskrit as well, and then the translation?
Yes, the Sanskrit and the
Sanskrit
translation.
and translation. Okay. Arvakshrosastu navama shattar ekavito nirnam rajodika karma para dukhe cha sukhamanina. Translation. The creation of the human beings who are of one species only and who stock their eatable in the belly is the 9th in the rotation. In the human race, the mode of passion is very prominent. Humans are always busy in the midst of miserable life, but they think themselves happy in all respect. Purport. All the human beings is more passionate than the animals, and thus the sex life of the human being is more irregular. The animals have their due time for sexual intercourse, but the human being has no regular time for such activities. The human being is endowed with a higher advanced stage of consciousness for getting relief from the existence of material miseries. But due to his ignorance, he thinks that his higher consciousness is meant for advancing in the material comforts of life. Thus, his intelligence is misused in the animal propensities, eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, instead of spiritual realization. By advancing in the material comforts, the human beings put himself into more miserable condition, but illusioned by the material energy, he always thinks himself happy, even while in the midst of misery. Such miseries of human life is distinct from the natural comfortable life enjoyed even by the animals. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for your wonderful recitation. So we will have a short reflection on this, and before we move on to the next, because this speaks a lot about the qualities of the human being, and there is one that is mentioned in the translation, which is in the human race, the mode of passion is very prominent. So. And we can see that with like the endeavors that's going on all around us. I don't know if you recall, there was a point of time when the world was trying to build the world's largest, tallest building. So it used to be at one point of time, the KL towers, the Malaysia towers, and I say that because Shiji Kashir Mataji is from Malaysia, so that was the Twin Towers was supposed to be the tallest one, and then some other country felt that no, I need to build something which is even taller, and that's how they would spend that time. And today, I'm not sure which is the tallest. Uh, and probably doesn't even matter. But it goes on to say how a lot of our endeavors are driven through passion, and that could be when someone like rises from being a graduate to being a CEO of a company, and it could be someone who has like built a very successful business. It could be someone who has been like really setting up global operations like in his company, in his or her company. So a lot of them, they get their energy from the mode of passion, which is rajas. However, what Prabhupada says here is that due to his ignorance, he thinks that his higher consciousness is meant for advancing in the material comforts of life. So I was speaking to someone who was who was driving me back like from the airport, and he was talking about his visit to a particular part of London, and he went inside, and he was supposed to drop pick this particular person, and then he had he had been given a postcode, and then he went in, and so he was not very sure where it was because he was not familiar with that area. So he came, and then he saw that there was this particular gate, and then it's only when he called that he realized that he had to go in. So he went going on and on inside, and then he saw this like magnificent place, which had lots of rooms and probably a swimming pool and many other things. And he was quite overwhelmed with that. Actually, he was quite. And then he met up with this person who was an occupant, and in the course of the discussion, he found out that there are only three people who are living in that particular house. So while comforts are not necessarily a bad thing, but the question is how much like energy and endeavor would this particular person have put to like achieve that. And then the question is that really like the best way to use your intelligence. And just a question on that. So we are pursuing material comforts in life, but whenever the need becomes the need becomes greed, that's when like we perform those excessive endeavors. And that could be like working like 12 hours 12 like or even more. And many of us, we think that that's really a good thing because that's what I need to do. I need to spend like 10 to 12 hours in order to like develop a very successful career. But then the question is, are you really losing something? Are you really happy? And even when you get the material comforts that you think that you will be happy with, are you truly happy? And that's what like Prabhupada says here, that he always, because we are illusioned by this material energy, because we have got this view of what happiness is. We do not realize that it's very temporary. It could be taken away from us at any point of time, and it can also put us to misery as well, because what happens if like a theft happens? What happens if something happens, you lose your job? So then that really puts you like back in misery. So and that's really like the misery of human life. And what Prabhupada also ends up here saying, that um, probably the animals are probably enjoying better, because we have to like wake up, we put our alarm, we wake up in the morning, we do a japa, we then head for office. Animals, they don't really seem to do that. They seem to be like waking up when they need to, they need to like rest when they want to. You look at birds, I mean, they do not stock up their grains, they just eat whatever is available to them. So and Mother Earth has provided us with everything. The Lord has provided us with everything, but we probably want more. So that's the thought I wanted to leave you with. Any reflection before we move on to the next text? We can also have some reflection at the end. So would somebody like to read the Sanskrit and the English of text 27? Please unmute yourself, or maybe I can go this time. Vaikritasraya evaite devasargascha sattama vaikarikastu ya prokta kaumaratubhayaktamah yatmakaha. And the translation: O good Vidura, these last three creations and the creation of demigods, the 10th creation, are Vaikrita creations, which are different from the previously described Prakrita, which is natural creations. The appearance of the Kumaras is both. So this really speaks about we saw that there were 10 creations, that Sage Maitreya has been describing to Lord Vidur, and the first seven are six are Prakrita, which is natural, and the rest are Vaikrita. So, and does it have a purport? It doesn't. So, would somebody like to read 28 and 29?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, I'll do it.
Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
Deva sargaschastavido vibhuta pitaro sura gandharvapsara sasiddha yaksha rakshamsi charana bhuta preta pisascha vidyadhara kinaradayaha das dasaste vidurakshata sargaste vishvashrikrita. Translation. The creation of the demigods is of 8 varieties. Number 1, the demigods. 2, the forefathers. 3, the asuras or demons. 4, the Gandharvas and apsaras or angels. 5, the yakshas and rakshasas. 6, the siddhas, chanaras and vidyadharas. 7, the bhutas, pretas and pisachas. And 8, the superhuman beings, celestial singers, etc. All are created by Brahma, the creator of the universe. Purport. As explained in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Siddhas are inhabitants of Siddhaloka, where the residents travel in space without vehicles. At their mere will, they can pass from one planet to another without difficulty. Therefore, in the upper planets, the inhabitants are far superior to the inhabitants of this planet in all matter of art, culture, and science, since they possess brains superior to those of human beings. The spirits and jinns mentioned in these connections are also counted among the demigods because they are able to perform uncommon functions not possible for men. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. We may have come across some of the names like the Yakshas, Rakshasas, Apsaras. There are some which may not be very familiar with. So these are really the creation of the demigods, and they form the 10th, and all of them have been created by Brahma, as he has created the other bodies of living beings through, using his body and mind when the Lord disappeared right at the beginning of this chapter. So we will talk a little bit more about the qualities of, like each one of them. Now, if you recall, there are 14 levels of planets, and Earth is right in the middle, and then we have the higher planets and we have the lower planets. So all of these living entities are in a very different are in different planets, and based on our aspirations, based on our spiritual endeavors, we can rise higher and higher, but we also have the propensity to go lower and lower if we perform very despicable acts. Although we do have a higher consciousness, as we have seen in the previous verse. So here there are some Prabhupada, points out to some mystical qualities of some of these some of these entities. So all these living entities, like what's common about them is that they have the ability to perform uncommon functions, which is not really possible for men. And because they possess physiologically they possess brains which are superior to those in human beings, although science does not really believe in the existence of these, but we will come to that in a little while. The siddhas, they are able to travel in space without vehicles. I'm just in the process of reading a book called The Accidental Universe, and this is quite an interesting. It's written by one of the professors, who is quite well known in, like in astronomy, and he speaks about, like some of the accidental discoveries that has happened and how, like everyone is trying to find, like if there is extraterrestrial life. And then that's called SETI, which is Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And apparently, there is a lot of money that is spent. There is a lot of funding that is made to really try to find out. There was a point of time in the 70s and the 80s where, like almost every light objects was seen as a UFO. But then now, people have realized that it's not really. They don't really. There's not really any alien that they could really connect with. And here we have, so it's quite possible. So science doesn't recognize that that could be anybody like Siddhas who can really travel in space without vehicles. So, and we are really aspiring because, the best we can probably go to is landing on the moon, but we can't, and we are having plans to go to Mars, but in all probability, we will not be able to find anybody there. So there are living entities which have abilities to do which man cannot, and that's not recognized, by science. But it's also something that we need to be aware of. That the human entity is not the highest in terms of like our powers, but then we do have an opportunity to really to make a difference in our lifetime, and that is by developing our consciousness towards Krishna consciousness, because then we have the shortcut to really go to Goloka Vrindavan, which those living in the higher planets do not. Any reflections on this before I move on to the last? Does anybody feel inspired to read this one?
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I'll finish it off.
Thank you, Mataji.
Okay. अथ परं प्रवक्ष्यामि वंशान्मन्वन्तराणि च एवं राजप्लुतस्रष्टा कल्पदिष्वात्मभूर्हरि सृजत्यामोकसङ्कल्प आत्मैवात्मानमात्मना. Translation. Now I shall describe the descendants of the Manus. The Creator, Brahma, as the incarnation of the passion mode of the personality of Godhead, creates the universal affairs with unfailing desires in every millennium by the force of the Lord's energy. Purport. The cosmic manifestation is an expansion of one of the many energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Creator and the created are both emanation of the same Supreme Truth, as stated in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, Janmadi Yasya Yatha. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the third canto, 10th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Divisions of the Creation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mataji. So this is how in this particular chapter ends, and Sage Maitreya is going to continue to talk about the descendants of the Manus in the next chapter, and he makes quite an important point. He says that yeah, Prabhupada says here that both the creator and the created are both emanations of the same supreme truth. And this also picks up in the philosophy which is Achintya Veda Veda, which is inconceivably one and different, and that forms the basis and the ethos of Krishna consciousness, where we all spiritual, all living entities, have a relationship, a personal relationship with with Krishna, and we are part and parcel. We are the same in quality, but not in quantity. So, and uh, and this is something that we don't always remember, and we will talk a little bit more about this as we go along. Any reflections before I move on to a short presentation that I would like to use to describe the messages from from chapter 10 a little bit more? All right. So I'm going to when I was going through this, I thought I'll take a slightly different approach towards this. So there is a divisions of creation, as the Srimad Bhagavatam, is saying, and there is also what science says. So I thought we could really look at understanding what the Bhagavatam says in these verses with the lens of science. So let me share my screen. So hopefully you're able to see that. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to look at these verses and how they link up to what science really tells us, and then we can have a discussion. So prior to that, let's really look at where we are in terms of the Bhagavatam itself. So prior to this, Brahma has just uttered his prayers, and some very beautiful descriptions of the Lord, when he sees him, and when he attains his self-realization after his birth. So when he was in the universal lotus bud, and as he was looking at the Lord, the Lord instructed him towards the end of the passage, the chapter, and then he disappeared. So then Brahma meditated, and Lord Vidura asked Sage Maitreya, uh, now that the Lord has disappeared, could you please tell me how did Brahma, who's the who's the primal unborn, how did he really create the bodies of living entities using his body and mind? And the whole chapter really describes how the various divisions. So really what chapter 10 does is it describes the process of creation from a spiritual perspective, and this is really about how the various living beings, as you saw, those 10 living beings, right till the demigods and human beings, how they've emerged from very different aspects of his body and mind. And what it also does is the text also tries to link up the life forms, and for those of us who have read biology, will also be able to see some commonalities. And it's quite interesting because Vedic cosmology has been there for thousands of years, and modern biological classification has just come now. But it also goes on to say how much of the knowledge and the science that we have today, that we think we are very proud of, because we have acquired, we have made vast progress in science, and there's nothing denying that we have. But then the Vedas have been always on the forefront, and the ancient wisdom has been there for much longer than what modern science really believes they are. So let's look at the classification, and we can go through this in a little bit of we may not have to go through all of them, but I was just looking at the Bhagavatam classification and what is the modern biological equivalent, and then how is that really described in the Bhagavatam. And as you go through this, you're going to see that there are lots of commonalities. So it really begins with like Udbija, which is plants and trees. And the modern equivalent of biology it's called plantae. So like all the plants and the trees are described, which is quite similar. And then essentially what the Bhagavatam describes is that they're life forms that grow from the earth and they're rooted at one place. So they can't really move. So they're rooted at one place. And then in the next order, so there is a hierarchy, or there is a classification structure in terms of evolution, and there's a similar one that's there both in science and in Bhagavatam. So the second one are essentially creatures that are born out of moisture. So these are really the fungi, the bacteria, and the microorganisms. And then and then Bhagavatam also says that these organisms have been born from sweat, moisture, and decomposition, which is not very different in terms of how that's explained. Then the third form is like living entities whose bodies are born out of eggs, and and then that's where you have the mammals coming in, and that includes a lot more. It's mammals, birds, reptiles. Mammals comes in the next one because they're womb born. Then we have aquatic life, which is the fishes. Then you have the quadrupeds. Then you have the human beings. And this is where there is a big difference, because this is one that modern science does not believe in. And while in Bhagavatam, these high beings have got brains which are bigger than human beings, who have got greater intelligence and more mystical powers, as we saw some examples of. This is something that science completely refuses to believe exists. And well, there could be many reasons for it to do, but one could be because we are trying to use our material senses to think of something which is quite inconceivable. So there are three themes that really comes out in the whole of the chapter, and then we will go into the last 5 verses. So so we are describing the different modes of creation. So the Bhagavatam describes how we got created, how creation came into existence, and that's where beings were created from his body, mind, and energy. So and then you see that there is a evolution that you could see, which forms a hierarchical path. And science also believes in a similar evolution, but then what they believe, as far as Darwin's theory, which is probably most the most popular one and the most like respected as well, is they he believes in genetic mutations and natural selections, so that like every creature evolves, so that like over hundreds and millions of years they develop much better features, like maybe more intelligence, as we go along. So there is a commonality in how like both view how the living entities really came into being. The second one is diversity of life forms. So clearly, you could see that there are 10 divisions, and the Bhagavatam describes it on the basis of the mode of birth. And biology also does categorize them, but then they do that through morphology and evolution and genetics. The third one would be origins of life. So um, the Bhagavatam and other Vedic texts, they do believe that they say that life emerges from Brahma and divine energy, and that's been invested by Lord Narayana, who is the Lord in action, and 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 different from Krishna, who is the Lord at rest. Whereas in science, it believes that life has originated from the chemical and the biological processes that's been happening over the last billion of years. So, in essence, we get from the Bhagavatam divisions of creation in a way that's offers a spiritual and a metaphysical account of how creation has come about, and then there is the modern classification of living beings. The university teaches us modern classification of living beings, but at no point of time do we really understand Vedic cosmology and Vedic, like reasons for creation. So let's look at the summary of verses 26 to 30. So these verses really describe the last two, which are the highest forms of living entities, which is Manushya and the celestial beings, who are of eight different varieties. So some key messages here are that the human form, if you look at the Manushya, I mean, they're born with karma and dharma. So we did speak about there being in the mode of passion, and so there there's a lot of endeavor that human beings typically does, and but they also are governed by karma, by the actions that they do, and the actions that they do can be both swadharma, which is really doing your material duties, or sanatan dharma, which is really doing things in a spiritual context. And the key thing is that they've got free will and they've got the ability to act in either way. So here is where, because we are living in Kali Yuga, so the divine forces, the divine nature and the demonic nature lies within the same individual. So, and that sometimes it could be the good dog that comes out, and sometimes it's the bad dog, and it really depends on whom you nourish. So we have a choice, we have a free will on whom you want to nourish. If you want to, just go for parties, if you want to really just endeavor, if you want not to go to temples, if you want to commit some impious acts, then clearly you're using your free will, which is a gift that the Lord has given, but not to your advantage. They are subject to suffering and enjoyment based on their past actions. We know well about this, and we also saw how Prabhupada talks about the fact that we use our intelligence. We have been gifted with a lot of powers, but then we don't necessarily use it in the right way, and we do that only for sense enjoyment, but that can only lead to misery and suffering. And the third one, which is a ray of hope in the tunnel of life, which is it's unique because it offers spiritual realization. And through Krishna consciousness and through our sadhana, through our devotional service, through our association, through our reading books, through our reading the Bhagavatam, through our attending sanghas like this, we really try to move our path in terms of our spiritual journey. So we have the choice to do it. The choice that you have made to really to join this particular sangha and join these sanghas on a very regular basis is a manifestation of the fact that you're using your free will to come closer to Krishna. So moving on to demigods. So this is so what is the Bhagavatam talks about demigods and other higher beings. So they, as I mentioned, they exist in higher realms like Siddhaloka, and they do govern some of the natural forces. And some examples are Agni, controlling fire. So many of the demigods are responsible for some elements, and the Lord has given them the power to really control them. So while they may control the rain, but then they derive that particular energy, that that ability to do that from Krishna. And they are also born from Brahma's mind and energies, which is higher than the body which the other living entities have come from. So that's why they are more evolved as living entities, because they come from the higher faculties of Brahma. And then, unlike humans, devas have much longer lifespans. They could kind of live for thousands and thousands of years. They have much subtler bodies which can really travel from a place to another, uh, tele, um, teleporting with no difficulty, and they definitely have much higher intelligence. But having said all of that, I mean, they could have great mystical powers. They can control, the natural elements. But it's very, very important for us to remember that they are still part of the material universe. So they still are going to take birth, and they're going to die, and they will be they'll be governed by all the laws of nature that exists. So they're also influenced by the modes of material nature. So looking at like the devas and the gods. So here are some differences using verses 26 to 30. So we did say that the origin of humans, we have been given free will. We have been created by Brahma. And what science believes is that we have evolved over millions and millions of years from primates. Apes are supposed to be our closest ancestors, but not many of us like it. Consciousness, we have been gifted with dharma and karma, as we saw, and we can spiritually grow. However, science doesn't really recognize the spiritual aspect of it, and it believes that we have developed all our intelligence, our brain complexity, our self-awareness through evolution. So it quite dismisses, the aspect of spiritual, the spiritual aspect, and even the fact that we have a spiritual body. So the higher devas, they are born from divine energy, they govern cosmic forces. Science doesn't recognize this. They say that all nature is governed by physics, and if there is anything there's nothing like supernatural, there's nothing, everything can be explained by science. That is the aspect of who we are, and material versus subtle bodies, and also maybe adding on the spiritual bodies. So humans have gross bodies, devas have subtle and luminous bodies, and then we also have a spiritual body as well, which is quite like masked in everything. Science acknowledges only physical and gross bodies. They don't understand. So the moment you ask, think about ghosts and like pretas, science dismisses them as humbug or superstition. So the purpose of human life is, as the Bhagavatam says, rightfully so, which is spiritual evolution, and for us to liberate ourselves from rebirth. And the Bhagavatam goes even further and says it's loving devotional service for the Lord. So I don't even care about moksha, but can I really be performing devotional service at your feet forever, eternally? So that's really what pure devotees really ask for. And what does science do? They look at survival. I mean, I need to have my generation go on. I need to, pass on my, wealth and riches to, to my children. I would like to have my legacy, carry on in this material world. I would like to socially advance. I could be from a poor family, and then I want to move to a middle class family, and then to a rich family. So that's really, what science believes is progress. And from a lifespan perspective, humans have shorter lives. As we have seen, devas have much more. And then lifespan really depends, on species. Whether you're a dog or a worm or a human being or an elephant or a whale. So you can see that there are some similarities in terms of how science describes it, and here are just a few of them. So both describe humans as unique, and both agree that humans have higher cognitive abilities. The idea of governing forces loosely compared to natural forces, although they don't really give it a classification of a god, but then they do see, we can see some parallels. Where we see science being very different from what is being described in chapter 10 and in these verses is that human origins through evolution, whereas Bhagavatam says that it has been created, we have been created by Brahma. Science doesn't accept demigods or any higher form. They think that the human beings are the highest form of evolution, whereas we know differently. The Bhagavatam says the truth. And very importantly, the Bhagavatam sees human life as an endeavor towards achieving your spiritual purpose, which is to develop a personal relationship and go to Goloka Vrindavan. And science sees this as just a biological and social progression. So at the end of your life, you just die and just move on. And it's very, very limited in its view. We spoke about my last slide here. So we spoke about the 8 varieties of the creation of demigods. And I thought it'll be good to just, describe a little bit about who they are. So demigods, devatas, we know. So they are, they govern the natural forces, universal affairs. So Indra, who, controls rain, and we're dependent on rain for, agriculture, for keeping life in this particular planet. Our forefathers are the Pitras, we worship them, and what they do is they oversee after rituals, and they also guide the departed souls, and we do worship them. And um, there are some religions like even Chinese, who really believe a lot in ancestors, and they actually have some festivals where they celebrate ancestors. Then we have the demons, asuras, and essentially they are the opposite of demigods, and they're constantly in battle with them. They are mostly materially inclined, and they perform some of the most despicable acts. They are constantly in intoxication. Then you have the Gandharvas, Apsaras, and their art culture is something which is very, very special to them. So they would be very, very renowned in terms of musicians, dancers, and in Indra's court, you would have a lot of apsaras, who'd be dancing, and basically they're masters of entertainment, and probably much more than our West End. So looking at Yakshas and Rakshasas, so Yakshas, they guard wealth, so they're associated with the Lord of Wealth, that's Kubera. Rakshasas are they are powerful beings. They have a lot of mystical powers, but then they have both benevolent and malevolent, but at a higher level, at a higher degree than human beings. Siddhas, Charanas, and Vidyadharas. So, they have some mystical perfections like Siddhas, they can travel from one planet to another without vehicles. And then Charanas are celestial bards, so they can really, walk around like poets. And then Vidyadharas, they have some divine knowledge and abilities. Bhuta, Pretas, and Pishachas, now they are spirits, ghosts, and ghoulish beings. And this is probably where science and Bhagavatam come a little closer, because if there is any one of these varieties that science probably believes, or at least has a ambivalent like view on, it's probably this particular group, because there are those because there are many classes of like humans who do believe that there are ghosts who exist. You have conversations with like a force that is different, and they can do some terrible things. They can also be good as well. So a lot of movies, a lot of books has been like written on this, and they continue to be very popular. And then lastly, the superhuman beings, and these are essentially those who are extraordinary entities whom we can't really know a lot of. So when Brahma has created all of them, I mean, all of these demigods, right? I mean, and also there has been a natural balance, a cosmic balance that has been created, and so it's been very, very well thought through. And in a way, what this particular verse is just summing up would be that the Bhagavatam gives a very purpose-driven view of human creation. And this purpose is for us to come closer to Krishna, for us to have a spiritual purpose. And science really provides a very, very process-driven explanation that there has been an evolution. So, we rose from the lower forms of life to the high forms of life, and science doesn't really, recognize any form of life which is higher than human beings. So, as you can see that. There is a very interesting comparison between what the Bhagavatam says about the division of creation and what science says, and what are some of the similarities, what are some of the differences, and what does it really mean for us as individuals, who are brought up in university education with more of science than the Bhagavatam. So with that, that really sums up, my short talk on verses 26 to 30. So happy for any reflections, any questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have a reflection,
Sure.
and that is about going to the core of this issue of creation, which scientists don't believe or don't accept. And that's where the problem lies in the comparison charts between, the ones that you put up earlier.
Yeah.
About the differences between what the scientists or biologists have created versus what the Bhagavatam says. And for example, the aquatics or the animal species or, the bird life, human life, etc. Scientists have been able to categorize that because it's already in existence. So they've observed it and they're able to categorize it. Whereas Srimad Bhagavatam takes you to the origin of every single life. So there is really no comparison there. Scientists are not able to, for example, recognize the higher beings because, again, they don't have the material sense to appreciate that higher life. So, that's where their shortcomings are. So really, the core issue here is creation, which they need to get to, or they need to address, really. And the idea is, where do we all come from? And we don't just happen to be on the planet. And we just didn't spring from primates, So this is the issue, that they want to go and land on the moon or Mars, but they don't want to address the issue of where did we all come from and where are we heading. So that was my reflection. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. I think that was beautiful reflection, and actually, I know absolutely, because science chooses not to recognize, and a lot of the body of science that has been built is, as you mentioned, very empirical. So it's very observation based and it's very research based, and we believe that that's how we are trying to understand how the universe operates. But then the universe always has been, it has always been eternal, and that eternal wisdom has always been in the Bhagavatam. And the reason why science doesn't accept it, as you mentioned, is that we try to make sense of the world using our material senses, but then we do need to know that the Lord's creation is just like the Lord Himself is inconceivable, and unless we surrender to Him, and unless we um, believe that there is a divine force in the form of the Lord, that knowledge is not going to come to us, because as also Krishna says, I'm just going to create, like, because he makes you forget things, he makes you remember things as a paramatma according to your desire. So if you desire not to just go for material benefits, and that's a material benefit, that's what you're going to get. But if you really aspire for something which is a bit deeper, then that's when you get introduced to the wisdom of the Bhagavatam, other scriptures. And when you do that, it's not that you have answers to all the questions, but then it let us make you reflect and understand your position, your constitutional position, and also where you are with respect to the universe. And the moment you say, uh, because one thing that science has also done is, because we believe that humans is the highest form of civilization and there's no one above us, then that also leads us to a lot to this collective false ego that becomes extremely difficult to penetrate, because everybody else is feeling that way, so we also feel that way. So it's quite difficult to really get rid of that, unless we really have this association, unless we have like devotees, and unless we read with them and truly have that deeper understanding of spiritual knowledge. So
Yeah,
thanks
so
for sharing that.
yes, and I understand the point you're making. It's hard to coexist with scientists when they have that kind of limited
Yeah,
sense. Yeah,
yeah,
and when you hear about the shlok, in Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna says Maya Dyakshena Prakriti, he glances over material nature, and it all comes into being. So that is so beautiful. And how do you explain that to a scientist who
yeah.
says? So that is the kind of the conflict that that we have to coexist with. But thank you very much for that
Yeah.
feedback. Yes.
Yeah, and it's not to say that science is fully bad, or because I'll just come to like one little thing towards the end. So science is not necessarily bad all the time, but I think it's important to really also see how we can coexist. And also, when we want to talk to scientists, we don't necessarily have to go the like, I'm higher than you and I know things more than you, because then that again puts you in a very similar situation, because you're also um, undergoing for a false ego. But it's really more about being compassionate to them, understanding their frame of reference, but but then sticking to your own. So, and I think that there are good examples of scientists who also embrace their spiritual side.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you for
Krishna,
the nice.
Mataji.
Thank you for the nice class. Talking about scientists, but there are scientists who are devotees, right? So one scientist, he became devotee. He went to a conference where they were talking about they can make life like life is only chemicals, right? So this devotee just stood up. He said, okay, if human life is only chemicals, so I can give you whatever chemicals you want and as much as you want. Can you make a life in the lab? So then they stopped talking. Also, we talk about research. What is the meaning of research? Something that had already been searched is there. We go and read on it and we do research. Talking about scientists, I live with 2 scientists in my house.
Right.
Two
Oh,
doctors
that's
in my
wonderful.
house. Yes. Yes. But then because we are Krishna conscious also, not deep. I'm not like, but they understand Krishna is the supreme, and they believe, right? So again, we are talking about they don't believe in spirit, in ghosts, in Bhuta Pichasas. They don't believe in this. But if we read in Srimad Bhagavatam, we come to the episode of Gokarna and Dundakari. Dundakari appeared in front of Gokarna in his bodily ghost, like ghost body. He talked to his brother, what has happened to me? All the people killed me, so you have to do something to just get me out of this ghost body. And then they did the Bhagavatam for 7 days, and then he got liberated. So these kind of things are there. If we read, even scientists, slowly, they will change their mind. We still have arguments though.
Yes, and that's where our preaching abilities also comes in, right? So when we encounter a
Yes.
scientist, do not dismiss science. All science
No,
is
no.
humbug, because science
Yes.
has definitely got a place. But as also Patimata mentioned, how do we really, coexist together? Because normally it's not science or spirituality; it's science
Mhm.
and spirituality. Like, and knowing the purpose for each one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank,
Nice.
thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. So, do I understand that each and every body of a living beings or living creature has been designed by Brahma?
That's right. It's not really an evolution that science speaks about,
Yeah, yeah.
because he's created them, from his body, from his mind,
Mm,
from his
mm,
energies. Yeah,
mm,
yeah,
mm. So the theory of evolution is completely rejected by Vedic um, philosophy. Yeah.
yeah. So the
Okay.
evolution, as we understand, is
Mm,
not really right.
mm,
Similarly, even the Big Bang, for example, we keep hearing about how there was this like a little ball of concentrated matter, and then
mm.
some random like event had just created a Big Bang, and that's how the universe got formed.
Oh,
Really?
yeah. Okay. It's very difficult, when I speak to my brother, and my brother is very much like into science.
Hmm.
And when I say like, no, 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 evolution theory is not correct, because like I say, oh, like, my ancestors was a monkey or something like that. And then he will just like look at me like I'm crazy. Like I say, like, no, no, we like Brahma created all the bodies. Is it like Brahma created like 12 rishis, and then like, is it we are descended of those rishis?
We'll come to that in
Like,
the subsequent
yeah,
chapters, but yes, yes. So
yeah,
he's
it's like
yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
okay, all right. So I try to explain that to him, but he doesn't understand.
And that doesn't matter actually. I mean, because there are many, and it could be your family members who may not appreciate, and it's
Mm,
okay to be there. I mean, to just inform them, but also respect
yeah.
their views, because
Oh yes.
at some point
Yeah.
they will like understand. We should just pray
Mm,
to the Paramatma in their heart that please
yeah.
give them the intelligence that they need.
Yes. Yeah. Of of course. Yeah. Mm,
Thank you, Mataji. Induleka
okay.
Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Srila Prabhupada said that we should not discard their understanding, because we eventually come from monkeys, because we have been roaming in 8.4 million species of life. We have been in all the species of life. Then we reached to human beings. So they understood it wrongly, right? But eventually, yes, we come from dogs, cats, monkeys, everything we come from. So, but they got it wrong. But slowly, hopefully, they will get it right. right? Also, Mataji talking about it's not 12 rishis, it's 10 rishis that Lord Brahma created. He created from his mind, he created Marichi, and from his mouth, Angira, from his ear, I think Pulatsya, from his navel, Pulaha, from his hand, Krutu, thumb, I think it's Yaksha, life is Vashishta, lap is Narad Muni, and skin is Brigu, and from the eyes is Atri Muni. That was the 10. And we are their descendants because, you know, when we do some puja, they ask you for your gotra. They ask for gotra, which gotra you belong to. So my Guru Maharaj say, we just say that, I don't know, some say Gautam Gotra, some say like, they name the rishis. For us, we say Achitta Gotra. We come from Krishna, that's all. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thanks, Mataji. I mean, it's amazing how much you're I mean, you're this cornucopia of knowledge. So you recited that so well. So thank you so much.
No, Prabhuji, I copy from others because I listen to them. So I copy from them. It's not from me, nothing from me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it doesn't matter because there's nothing like copying when it comes to spiritual wisdom, right? It's all to be shared, and when you share that knowledge, it just multiplies. So
Thank you.
thank you. So I think we have come. Any final reflection before we just do final prayer?
So, Prabhu, sorry, you know, they
Yes.
say that there is like 400,000 different species of human life, but that is like the consciousness, right, of a human, yeah? So, how is the consciousness created? I mean, like,
Mm,
when did the consciousness come in?
you mean at what stage?
You know, like there are 8,400,000
Yeah.
species of life, and out of that 400,000 is just human species, but they are like all like different consciousness.
Yeah. Uh, how did that come in? So I'm not sure if it's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. I don't know. I mean, would anybody know how did the? Uh, I suppose that there's consciousness in every living entity because even the plants and plants also, if you recall, it says that they also have feelings and they can feel a little pain. So there is a little bit of consciousness in every living entity, and it just multiplies, like as we come to the human beings.
No, I actually read that the out of 8.4 million species of life,
Mhm.
400,000 is the human species.
Yes, that's right. But I do think there'll be lower consciousness in the other, like living entities as well. So it's not that consciousness is just starting to come in the 400,000 species of human, but it's
Mm.
it's there even before. But then it's it just depends on the level of consciousness, but it's very very minimal in plants and trees, and then it magnifies itself in human beings. But if anyone has read this or would be able to answer Mataji's question, that would be really great.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, it's me again. Sorry.
No problem.
Consciousness should be there. It is always the Satchitananda Vigraha. We are like the Satchitananda. We are just like Krishna. We have this. The soul carries with it. Otherwise, how can it evolve? Like Mataji saying, 400,000 human form. Yes, 3 million beasts, 1 million birds, worms and reptiles, 1.1 million, plants 2 million, aquatic 900,000. Like this, that is from Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9 in the purport Prabhupada is explaining. But it should be there, but it's lower, as you said, as and when we progress coming to human being, that income higher. Then going to demigods, it's highest. So it is always there. Otherwise, life will not be there, no?
Okay. Okay, I understand, Mataji. I think it's probably with the soul, the consciousness is
Yes,
like a
it is
soul.
there with
Yeah.
the soul. Yes.
Okay. All right. I understand, Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's there in very lower degrees to the other form, and that's why the human form is so fortunate for us because this is where our consciousness is at our highest. And that's also our opportunity for us to truly make spiritual progress, use our free will in the right way, and then take our path closer to Krishna. So, but many of us waste away, as we have seen, as Prabhupada says in verse 26, that we think that our material comforts is what is going to give us joy and happiness, but that's not the case.
Thank you,
Krishna
Prabhu.
consciousness will really help us.
Thank you very much. Prabhu.
Yeah, so Prabhupada says the consequence of a soul is the consciousness is there. So when the soul is present, consciousness is there. Once the soul departs, there's no consciousness. So as Mataji just said earlier, that the consequence of having a soul is that consciousness will be there. So any different species, consciousness is there throughout all the 8.4 million species, I think. And an interesting argument Prabhupada has in the Lilamrita, there's a quite a large section where he's having a debate with the scientists, and he's very frequently referring to them as rascals, because they're, which of course is not always the case. There are many, but the Swarup Damodar Maharaj was of course a scientist, a PhD, and there are many devotees who are greatly learned scientists, but still devotees. I think Prabhupada had an interesting conversation with respect to evolution. So he says evolution, we don't dismiss evolution, because from the birth, the body is evolving throughout. You don't stay a child, you are evolving into an adulthood. What he rejects is this whole theory about evolution of jumping from one species type to another. That is what we reject. Of course, adaptation within species is a natural consequence. So we accept that. What Prabhupada says, we should accept that. Evolution is a natural thing. But what we don't accept, I mean, the journalist famously asked Prabhupada, so we come from monkeys, and said, no, you come from monkeys, I don't. So yeah, we it was very. There's a very famous quote from him. But so we don't accept one species type jumping to another. The 8.4 million types of species are fixed, and there is no evolution between them. There's no new species that's created by evolution. Those are being created by Brahma. There is evolution within a species of adaptation, and of course we are evolving from birth all the way through to death. Because our body is evolving, yes. I mean, that is a form of evolution. So that was just some reflection, probably. Sorry.
No, thank you so much for that. I think that's beautiful. So thank you all. I think it's probably quite time. Thank you so much for your wonderful reflections. I hope you found this discussion useful. I hope it has answered some of your questions, but even if it has not, I hope it's at least raised some new questions, because that's really what the purpose of such discussions are. Not to always answer your questions, but to really make you more curious to know more. And with that, maybe we can do the final prayers, and then we can conclude today. Shri Kushir Mataji, I know you do this for others, so can you do it for us as well today?
Yes, certainly, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Let's all put our hands together, close our eyes, and let's recite this prayer. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories, all
Krishna.
glories, all glories to
All
Sri
glories.
Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji, for a
Ki Jai.
wonderful class.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
everyone.
thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.